So I've got some pretty awesome news for those who are looking to commission a Live2D Vtuber model. Vertex, which are the people behind many great avatars like Yanners, Iron Mouse, and Project Melody, have created a new site called Vtuber Market. This site is meant to be a replacement for the Discord marketplace that currently exists on the Live2D community server. This is going to make looking through posts so much faster, and it's going to be a great resource for any interested in both buying and selling Live2D services. Now, the site is pretty basic, featuring just a search bar, home, browse, and about page, but what makes the site so special is how it allows its creators to link their personal websites so their portfolio is easy to find. You can also upload a GIF to show off what a client might expect if they hire you. This makes skimming through listings so easy, and it's nice to have a central location run by a very trustworthy team. Let's take a peek at what the standard listing looks like. They'll have their status, either open or closed, what they're offering, rigging or illustration, whether or not they do NSFW, which yes, you can search for that, pricing, their website, and usually an example. They also have a typed post that lets you know a little bit more about them. If I sound excited, it's just because I'm happy this exists, and I hope that this becomes the most used website for Live2D enthusiasts. Before we get into how to commission one, if you find the video helpful, like and subscribe. It helps me out way more than you think, and I really appreciate it. So now that we have all that information out of the way, let's talk about what you're looking for in a Live2D commission. For those that are new and don't really know what Live2D is, a Live2D model is best described as dynamically animated 2D images which move with the aid of a program, webcam, or phone that can be used for live streaming, video games, YouTube videos. The sky's kind of the limit here. You can do a lot of stuff with them. Probably the best known examples are HoloLive like Gargura, and so if you've ever wanted a model like hers, this is what you're looking for. Live2D models are broken down into two parts. You'll first need the actual artwork for the model, referred to as the illustration. Now, the price range varies a lot here. I've seen it as low as 10 bucks or free, and I've seen it go as high as 1500. In all honesty, there really isn't a consistent range you're going for here, and you're really just paying for the exact style you want. I've had friends find amazing models for cheap, and I've seen others pay thousands. The second portion of your Live2D is finding your animator, also known as the rigging. There are a lot of people who can do both the illustration and rigging, but there's many more that specialize in just doing one or the other. It's my experience that if you want to go for the top of the line model with the smoothest motion, you're going to be commissioning two very expensive people. Just wanted to get that out of the way. Another downside to going with two people is you do have to try and properly plan when you are buying the art and rigging to fit both people's timelines, but as long as you're honest and diligent with your communication, this really shouldn't be an issue. Now, there is a little bit of prep work that we need to do before we commission our Live2D artists. Number one, you need a reference. If you approach an artist with a really vague idea, you're not going to end up with something you're happy with. This most often happens when you haven't taken the time to produce a reference sheet. I'm going to give you an example of the sheet I gave to the artist who made my cat model, Mythic Sights. This might seem like overkill, but any parts you don't specify are left up to your artist's interpretation. If you try to make them change it after it's already been drawn, you better expect to be charged for it. Fun fact, a lot of artists will either not accept your commission or charge you a design fee if you try to give them something vague. Number two, you need to understand what you're commissioning. Here's where I want to plug the most amazing written guide by Faf. This goes over not only what you need to look at from a commissioning perspective, but also what you might need to communicate to an artist when they are making your artwork. It's written from the perspective of a rigging artist, and I seriously cannot recommend it enough. It's so detailed and could probably be a video series all its own. I wish I had known about it when I was first looking for a model. It even has a list of ready-made models for practice, so you can have a better idea of what you're looking for. To summarize some of the main points, you need to know if the artist can produce rig-ready art, what kind of budget you might be looking at, how the pieces should be cut up, and even a link to the Live2D community Discord we mentioned earlier. If this seems like a lot more effort than you want to put in, you should reconsider getting a Live2D model in the first place. PNG or 3D might be a better fit. So let's get to the main event. How do you choose someone? And just as importantly, how do you avoid getting scammed? I'll be going over a couple different strategies, starting with the least risky, meaning you're probably not going to get scammed and you're going to end up with a great model, and end with the most risky. Most of these points can and will carry over to a commission of any creative nature, whether that's PNGs, stream overlays, 3D avatars, or music. The first and most secure method is finding a streamer or YouTuber who uses a model that has the style you want and read their bio, or just ask them who made their model. Everyone likes talking talking about who made their models, and often they are willing to comment on how easy their artists were to work with. I've personally mentioned many times on stream, my model art was made by Yaiba and my rigging was done by Nonin Studios. Why is this the least risky? Because you get to see the model being used, what it's capable of, and whether or not you'll want similar quality. This is the most useful for finding different styles and animators fairly quickly, and the only real downside is cost. Often, if you find a popular streamer and want a model made by the same people who made theirs, waitlists are longer and costs are generally higher. This is, again, because quality is almost guaranteed. You'll find as we go down the list, things tend to get cheaper, quality becomes much more flexible, and the amount of work required by you goes up. Most things in this tier just work well because they are very established artists. Next method is to browse Twitter, vtuber.gg, ArtStation, or any other site that has a search bar for commissions. Here's where we step into scammer territory and where you want to take every possible precaution to ensure you get what you're paying for. I was almost burned recently because I didn't pay enough attention, and it's only because of my good friend Camille that the scam was recognized, even though it was very obvious in retrospect. A few warning signs to watch out for are a pretty bland header or banner. Most people who do this legitimately will take the time to look legitimate. If you don't have confidence from your initial glance at someone's profile, it's okay to just back out and look for someone else. It's far better to have your initial meeting filled with confidence rather than doubt. What you'll want to check next is their body of work. Anyone you look at on these sites needs to have a good portfolio so you have multiple examples of what you'll be getting. Here's where it's a good idea to try and reach out to the individuals who have been using that artwork or model and ask how working with the artist was. The more examples you find, the better off you're going to be. It's also very, very important you pay attention to how similar all of their art looks. If you come across someone who has drastically different levels of art, or the styles don't really seem to match, you've probably found a scammer and it's time to move on. This is a little bit more difficult to do with rigging because finding someone's style is not as readily apparent, especially if this is your first time looking. Examples and references from other people are really going to be what works best, and in fact, making friends or getting to know the artist well before you commission them is going to be your best shot. It's also very nice to have artist friends who you can and should check with before you go ahead on a project. They'll know what to look for and help you make a good decision. If everything looks good, you can move on to contacting them. I would recommend reaching out with an initial message to make sure their comms are actually open, along with a nice friendly greeting. Once you've established they're open, tell them exactly what you're looking for. Make sure you both understand what each other is trying to get out of this commission. It's okay to be picky. It's okay to ask questions. If you start to have doubts, it's also okay to back out of the discussion. What's most important is that you and your artist feel excited to work with each other. Communication at this stage is just so important, and the earlier you talk about any potential problems, the easier they are to fix. Ask for sketches. Make sure you're checking in with them periodically and give them good feedback on what they've already done. Remember, if you try to change any aspects of your model after the drawing or rigging has already been done, you better expect to pay because it's unfair of you to try and change the arrangement once it's already been started. Most of what is and isn't allowed is readily available by the artist's own terms of service. Make sure you read this. It's basically a guide on how to interact with any given artist and answers most of the questions you'll have. You're going to start off on the wrong foot if you don't even give the artist the time and respect to read their terms of service. Finally, the last method, you can try finding someone completely new. This is obviously the most risky. You have no idea what kind of quality you can expect, but these people are also generally the cheapest. If you really just want to have something that moves, go ahead and take the risk. Just don't be surprised if it turns out badly, and don't browbeat someone because they didn't deliver your perfect match. New artists are going to make mistakes. Seasoned artists will too. Just remember there's a person on the other side of the screen and you can work out most problems amicably. So now you found someone you like, your initial conversation goes well, they tell you the design is something they can easily do and now would like to discuss payment. The most common I've seen is PayPal, and here's where another indicator of a scam might pop up. If they want payment by PayPal, never pay them as a family or friend. you're basically writing off that money. If something goes wrong, you're never seeing it again. Make sure they send it as a business invoice, because if they try and run off with the money, PayPal is very forgiving to the customer, and 9 times out of 10, you'll get your money back. Payment via card also has some buying protection, as if push comes to shove, you can file a chargeback. But if you use this to scam the artist, you're the worst type of person. Please reevaluate your life. The most important thing to remember is communication. If there's ever anything you're worried about, it probably stems from something you or your artist didn't understand, and the only way you're gonna fix it is by talking to them. Here's all the information that I know, what I used, and what I wish I had known when I first started. Seriously, I cannot recommend Faf's guide enough, and if the only thing you take away from this entire video is that guide, my job here is done. Hope you all enjoyed the video. If you did, you know what to do, and I'll see you all next time.